well na talagang minsan nahihirapan tayo. Everyone, once again, Nanay Jet here, helping couples build a purposeful, inspired, productive, and empowered married life. And tonight, napakaganda ng topic natin dahil we will be discussing on the power of prayer on God's terms in your relationship. So, I wonder, paano kaya natin malalaman that our prayer ay naka-align sa gusto ng Diyos para sa atin? So, to enlighten us, we have tonight a very young hubby, a young daddy, author, and speaker. And of course, eto yung talagang idol ko dahil isa siyang feast builder who is so passionate to tell us and to tell people about Jesus and His message. Guys, help me welcome Brother Stephen Nellas. Good evening, bro.
Hello, good evening. Nice to see you.
Sorry kasi
Thank you
yung
for
internet
having me.
connection. Yeah. So, good evening,
No
Brother
problem.
Stephen Nellas. So, gwapo yung
Yes.
guest ko ngayon. So, talaga. So, batang-bata na hobby, batang-bata na daddy at the same time. And eto yung amazed talaga ako ngayon kasi minsan lang na magkaka-interest at very passionate yung isang lalaki to evangelize and to tell people about Jesus, 'di ba? And Brother Steven, since for the whole episode, yung pag-uusapan natin ay tungkol sa prayer. So,
Yeah.
So let me ask you a very basic question this time. So why do we have to pray, maybe as an individual and as a couple?
Prayer is really the basic foundation of any spiritual life. I think that is the basic, right off the bat answer. And if there is no prayer, I don't think there will be a very vibrant spiritual life. There might still be a semblance of a spiritual life. Of course, like all of us, there are a lot of people who still do the works of religion, right? Like go to prayer. I mean, like do stuff related with religion, go to mass. But what I am trying to say here is a personal, intimate relationship with Jesus through prayer. Because a lot of people, they are praying, quote unquote, and it's not really bad, but there is a very big room to improve that prayer. So there's a need for us to, number one, individually connect with God, but as couples, we also have to make it a point. And I know there are a lot of couples who struggle with this, but I think that we have to make an effort to come together as a couple and pray together as well. Yun.
Okay, another question. Medyo mag-explore tayo ng konti. So, way back. So we will try to look back kailan ka nagka-interest yung heart mo ba na maging passionate kasi kung bata ka pa usually we are not so inclined to prayer, 'di ba? Parang okay lang, ganito lang yung buhay, 'di ba? And so when was the time na you realize na gusto kong magdasal, and at the same time, who is your model in prayer?
All right. Actually, in my book, I wrote it that the earliest time I could remember was when I was 4 years old. My mother was praying the Our Father for me before we went to sleep, and yun. But I got really interested in prayer when I was already in elementary. So all of those, my parents who were not really religious. Ito yung maganda kasi hindi naman talaga sila religious na they were in a community. Wala. They were just the typical Filipino who were going to church and just passing on the faith to their children na maybe leading them to a simple prayer, right? And we were all of my siblings were sent to Catholic schools. So isa yun sa pinaka, I believe, very big factor growing up kasi we were spending more time in school, but then even though we were not spending time at home, and my parents were not really hands on in terms of religion, but our school was. So high school, elementary, and even college, I was in a Catholic school or sectarian. So yun, I was really there were First Friday masses, and then may mga days of the saints. So ganun, very very para sa akin very helpful yun to create that desire in me to get to know more about this God. Kasi one of the most poignant moments that I had, or salient moments that I had, is I found myself in a Blessed Sacrament when I was still in elementary. I did not really understand what I was doing there. I went there because it was aircon. But then I remember in my mind I was asking, why are the older people all here and I'm the only one who is an elementary student? I took off my shoes and I went into this very like marble small room in Metropolitan Cathedral in Cebu, and then aircon. I was there because of the aircon, but I really believe that the Lord uses all these circumstances, like whatever inclination we have, to spark, to plant the seed. And yeah, I believe it started there. And of course, that also I was also inclined to the priesthood, and I'm glad that that didn't really materialize, that I didn't really become a priest. But I was asking myself, why do I really want to become a priest? I wanted to become a priest because I just wanted to really serve God in that capacity related to religion or related to faith. And yet I'm doing this now. So God can really use whatever. And I'm just glad that, God is still using me in that capacity, even though I'm a lay person. So really started really, really young, Sister Jet.
Okay,
Really,
thank
really
you.
started really young.
Before we proceed to our next question, siguro i-acknowledge muna natin yung andito ngayon. So, welcome, brothers,
Yes.
Sister Rose ata, at saka meron pang isa dito. Hello, everyone daw, si Sister Miriam. So, hello, ma'am. Okay, so, ngayon, fast forward po tayo. So, I agree with you because I also grew up with the nuns, no, sa Catholic school din kasi
Oh.
ako pinapaaral. So talagang merong influence sa buhay natin pag lumalaki ka na merong mga taong nakikita mo for praying, 'di ba? So since the start of your marriage, Brother Steph, kumusta po ang inyong prayer life as a couple?
It's actually growing because we spend time every night. We pray with Luca, our son, who is 4 years old now. So, and we also try as much as we can. Kasi I'm not a morning person. So, lalo na ngayong pandemic, di ba? Ngayong pandemic, because she gets to wake up in the morning and she likes to go to mass right away. So, yun, we have a separate time to go to mass. But then, in terms of my own personal prayer, I still have that. I haven't really lost that. But yun, we try to teach Luca, our son, together. We just pray a simple prayer like Angel of God, or maybe Our Father or Hail Mary, and we just model that to our son. And whenever I wake up in the morning earlier than usual, then that's when we get to go to mass together in the online space. But before the pandemic, we go to mass together, especially in the feast. So our prayer life has really evolved around the feast, the live feast before the pandemic. So while I'm preaching, Guada and Luca are in the audience. So when it's time for mass, so I go to them. I go into audience mode, and I don't really go to builder mode or feast builder mode. I just be with my family. And after that, because it's work time, so I go to preach. So I think that very typical, but I guess more than typical compared to what I had before with my parents. Na because my parents didn't really have any background on community. So Guada and we met as youth ministers before we got married. So both of us separately, which is really good. Gusto ko na i-highlight yon na it's really a blessing when each of you, each of the spouses separately have a prayer life of their own, because it's easier to come together and form a couple's prayer life. So yun, my prayer time kasi is usually dawn, or really really late at night, mga 11 p.m. to dawn, mga 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's where I really set time for prayer na ako lang, because lalo na ngayon my wife is pregnant, so she sleeps really really early. But yun,
Yeah.
when they go to sleep, I take time to go up. I stop my work, I go up, and then I cuddle with them, and then we pray. I, I think our goal really is just to model prayer to our son. That's why we just really say it loudly, because ako my default is to silent prayer, kasi yun yung pinaka go to ko, silent prayer. Even sometimes in the feast I get parang hindi naman shocked, but parang, oh, ito na pala yung feast na, 'di ba, malakas ganon. But of course I'm open to that pa rin. But when I'm alone, that's when I really do my prayer time deliberately. Yun.
Okay, so kung baga, meron bang pagkakaiba with respect to momentum of your prayer before having a baby or having your marriage, and after having a baby and with your marriage, nag-iiba ba yung momentum? Medyo mas lumalakas ba yung momentum or yung buwelo sa prayer, di ba? Kasi iba yung, siguro, what I mean here is, when we are still single, we have this,
Mm.
what we call the prayer time, prayer life
Mhm.
that we have, pero yung buwelo, nag-iiba ba before and after? Yun yung ano ko.
Yes, nag-iiba talaga sis, kasi yun nga, as I said, it's more of simple prayer na lang, hindi kagaya noon na, at I'm not sure sa iba ha, baka kasi yung iba is the flip side naman, when they got married, that's where they have more time to pray. Pero kasi kami, again, we have different times of waking up, so isa yun sa difference. When we were single, yeah, we spend time in prayer talaga. But when we got married, parang alam mo yun na, of course, there's no substitute to silent prayer, to really set time for prayer with God. Kaya nga ako, whenever everything is silent here, kasi I'm auditory as a person, I really get distracted when there are a lot of noises. Yeah, so I cannot focus when there are a lot of noises. So that's why I do my prayer time alone with God 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. kasi that's like my golden hour. So when they're asleep, that's when I pray. And I 'di ba parang, oh, so bakit hindi kayo nag-rosary together, not like before? Bakit, why aren't you doing devotion together? I also believe na, and again, I'm just open to all kinds of approaching our relationship with God as a couple, kasi not everyone is the same, and we need to really respect that. There again, not even individually, even the spouses, you have different styles of praying, you have different
Yeah.
ways of going to God. So we really need to respect that. And sinasabi ko yan kasi maraming mga couples na they are better at that. Pero kami nga, I asked my spiritual director, sabi ko, parang we are not doing it as much na together. But then, kasi what I learned about spiritual life is just to, alam mo yun, na, yun, aside from respecting, but to make, kasi yun yung problema natin mga Catholics or Christians, because of the list of to-dos or commandments na ito yung mga ideal, dapat ganito, dapat ganyan. Instead of it becoming life-giving, it becomes a burden na to the one who prays. Alam mo yun? So, ang sabi ng spiritual director ko is, just relax into it. Na parang, kasi if you're the one praying, you're one flesh with your wife pa rin. Right? Of course, sabi
You are
niya, if
one
you,
with the Spirit.
one in spirit, one talaga, you're just, physically, you're two people, but in the eyes of God, you are one. Of course, the ideal is you come together as much as you can, you pray, like, of course, we have that as a goal, of course. But then, is yung nga sabi nila, cliche, life happens, but it's not just a cliche, it's really real, no? Life really happens. And yun nga, if you, whenever, unquote, quote unquote life happens, meaning distractions, business, whatever, when they happen, and you react to that na parang reactive ka na, nasisira yung
Parang
schedule ko.
yung structured
Yes.
masyado na dapat
Oo.
ganito yung oras. Pero
Yes.
in a way, we can also agree as a couple na siguro we can just meet together in
Yes.
once a week. Depende kasi yan sa ano nyo. Maybe some could do it. Pero ideally, and it is also very much suggested na as much as possible yung prayer time ninyong mag-asawa ay ando na kasi
Yes.
it's good to also show to the children na eto yung dalawang ito parang parang nakadikit talaga kahit sa prayer ano. But
Mm.
then we also make some adjustments lalo na sa inyo na kami
Yes.
siguro we are already medyo
Yes, I know your
nagdadasal
story because
we already have more time together, 'di ba?
yeah.
Kaysa medyo kung bata pa tayo, bago pa lang yung marriage natin, medyo parang lalo na pag maliliit pa yung mga bata, yung parang nauubos lagi yung time parang anong oras na ba? Wala na palang ano, wala na palang oras yung parang ganon. So I think as long as there is that understanding na when I'm praying you are with me and when you are
Yes.
praying you're also with me, but we also have to take time na tayong dalawa,
Mm.
'di ba? So
Yes,
so
yes. So when my spiritual director really made me remember you're one flesh. So when you're sabi niya whenever she or you go to God alone separately, you're bringing him or she's bringing you pa rin. And then after nun alam mo kasi of course kasi ako I'm a builder, right? So parang there's a little bit of pressure na why am I not as why are we not praying as a couple that much? Kasi ganun nga maraming nangyayari sa buhay. But then after nun kaya talaga if you're really serious about your spiritual life, look for a spiritual director kasi he or she will be the one to give you parang bird's eye view. And then after that, sis, parang sabi ko, okay, parang, and really, it became lighter. It became lighter. I
yeah,
enjoy more praying with her or separately. So and I think that's spiritual life. It has to be life giving, no? It has to
yeah.
be there has to be joy in it. I believe that. So I pray that for all the couples who are listening right now or watching us. Yeah.
Okay, so alam ko din yung storya mo sa Hong Kong. And then
Yes.
with those struggles, with those struggles encountered, what motivated you to persevere? 'Di ba? Mahirap din yung storya mo na kung saan nasa other country ka pa doon nakunan si sister and then tapos
Mhm.
you have nobody and all you have is a God na you believe
Mhm.
na talagang tutulong sa iyo. So what motivated you to persevere, Brad?
Um parang that's a multifaceted question and it deserves a multifaceted answer, but I will tell you na always had the attitude na kasi I've always been honest with God. You know, when I'm angry, I'm angry at him. Like I really do. Like people will get shocked with that na parang, "Oh, you're angry with God?" Just read the Psalms. Just read the Psalms. The whole Psalms in the Bible shows the range of emotions that one could show to God, and yet you still love God in that sense. I just really had this attitude, sis or friends, na after all the questioning, after all the crying, after all the anger, after all the doubts, the confusions, I will always say no. So say yes. I will always say yes. Yun yung nagpapaano sa akin na parang yes, parang to the point na I'm not really thinking about it na parang basta I'll just say yes. I yun nga I remember when that happened to Hong Kong while Guada was admitted she had to sleep there. I went a little bit to change and to get some clothes for her. I really, yung parang sa drama na parang ay lumod ako sa bed. Tapos sabi ko that my prayer was, Lord, I'm really angry, parang depressed right now, but alam ko lang talaga, Lord, na may purpose ka. I don't know your purpose, pero sige, kasi ikaw yung mas may alam, I will still move on. Of course, I was crying. I was bawling. I was ganun. Of course, after that, I was still angry. After that, I was still down. We just lost our prayer, right? Our first na parang prayer na magkaroon kami ng anak. But noon, and then the Lord has been before, during, and after. He was actually showing us signs and miracles. And Guada and I talked about it a lot right now, na parang looking back. Kasi I keep on asking her, are you okay now with Hong Kong? Can you think of Hong Kong and not feel bad? And sabi niya, oh, okay na. So, yun. What kept me going was just that attitude of saying na there is really a higher entity, a higher being who is still in control. At the end of everything, alam mo na it's not going well right now, but there is you're part of something bigger pa rin. So, yun.
So my next question, Brad Steph,
Mm.
kasi the power of praying on God's terms, no?
Mm-hmm.
So katulad ng mga struggles natin, tapos meron tayo, di naman lahat ng mga prayers natin, meron agad na answers. Minsan unanswered pa nga yung prayers natin.
Mm-hmm.
Paano ba natin ma-determine that our prayer is still on God's terms? Kasi
Mm.
naka-align pa rin siya sa gusto ng Diyos. Kasi minsan, yun nga, yung tinatanong mo ang Diyos, bakit dito pa nangyari kung saan? Di ba? Minsan
Yes.
nagtatanong tayo, why me? Bakit ganito? Yung parang ang dami nating questions sa Panginoon. Pero how are we going to determine na this is on God's terms and I have to follow His will?
Let me just say before I answer na I went through that. Parang bakit ako... Talagang I was being selfish nun, sis, na parang, Lord, I'm serving you na. I'm a builder. Parang I'm preaching your word. Bakit? Tanun talaga. So, di ba? Talang very honest. And bakit ako honest? Kasi nakikita naman ni Lord lahat ng mga ideas ko and thoughts ko eh. So, bakit pa ako magtatago? Eh, alam naman niya yung mga pinag-iisip ko. So, di ba? Parang wala akong lusot doon. So, might as well say, okay, Lord, I'm really angry. So, anyway, to answer that na, it's a journey kasi. It's a journey. I really believe that, here it is. I'm gonna be giving you not just my own answer, but a teaching already that I've learned from my spiritual director and other like priests. Also involves a little bit of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, because knowing or having an assurance that we are still in what we are praying in God's terms actually has a different term, another term, and that is doing God's will or discerning the will of God. That's another term for it. And in the Jesuits na side of the spirituality or how they do it, knowing
Excuse
the
me.
will of God is actually discernment. Discernment. You have to have discernment. And what is discernment? Of course, you can look up into Google, look up Google and say discernment, and then. But for me, in like layman's term or in simple terms, discernment is actually simply reading the face of God, which involves or is related to a spousal relationship. 'Di ba? Kayong mga may asawa diyan or ikaw sis or kahit ako, 'di ba? Konting change ng kunot sa noo or parang smirk or parang ganun, konting facial muscles lang na nag-change sa asawa mo, you know what's happening. You know if your spouse is irritated or happy or gusto niya or hindi. And that is a result of a journey into your relationship. Reading the face of your mother, not just about a spouse maybe, but a family. You know that your mother is angry maybe, or you know your father will be okay with your request, right? So you can read the facial expression, and that is discerning God's will. And that can only be had if you have a relationship with God through prayer, because it is only through prayer, like really silent personal prayer. It's only through that where you can get to know the facial expressions, quote unquote, of God. And then, di ba, may mga moments tayo na parang, Lord, gusto ko talaga to, but in your heart, you know na ayaw ni Lord. Alam mo yun, na parang, Lord,
Yeah.
Ano kaya yung sagot? Pero alam mo na yung sagot eh. Alam mo na yung sagot. Alam mo na yung sasabihin ni Lord. Pero di ba tayo lang, your will, our human will is, gusto ko talaga to, gusto, but deep in our hearts, we kinda know what the Lord's answer will be. So parang ganun yung praying in God's terms. Yun nga, because it will be God's terms or our terms. Ang mahirap dito kasi even if God has His terms, we can still do our own terms.
Yeah.
And God is a gentleman. Ito lang yun eh. Ito lang yung it complicates the spiritual life because God has everything. God has everything in the universe except your heart. Unless you give him your heart, he cannot move in your life. So, pag sinabi Lord, do this, pero sinabi mo, I will do that, he will respect that talaga. He will take his hands off you. Kasi he will not, kasi free will talaga, our heart is something that he gave. He cannot take that back, the free will. So, yun, it's still a decision on our part to allow God to move in our lives, or we will still do our own will. Pero yun nga, our God is a merciful God. He will still bless you even if you do other things. But pero maganda lang if swak yung will ni Lord tsaka will mo aligned.
Mas
Wow.
peaceful
Ah,
ka, you
y-
will have peace.
yan yung yun na lang siguro. Yun yung pinaka if my indication that you are doing the will of God. Again, this is not just my own answer, but the answer of Saint Teresa and other spiritual masters. Just look for peace. Whatever decisions you have, of course you will be but yung peace na hindi ka wala kang nararamdaman. It's more of magulo pero alam ko this is the right thing to do. This is the loving thing to do. And if it's peaceful, then go. Kasi sabi ni Saint Ignatius Loyola at mga spiritual masters, the enemy can mimic love eh. The enemy can mimic humility sometimes. Mimic. But he can never mimic peace. Because in his being, the enemy will never have peace. He will never know peace. So when you're praying for a decision or whatever you want to do, pag may peace yan, just check na parang, Lord, do I have peace? Am I peaceful? If it's there, then chances are it's aligned with God's terms.
Thank you, Brad Steph. Ang galing. Ang ganda naman ang mo,
Sorry,
thought.
I tend to babble kasi ang daming mga ideas na maganda na i-share.
Okay lang. It's okay. We have all the time. So, could you give us 3 consequences of prayer na, yung bang, dahil sa prayer na yan, tapos yung consequence na yan, when you were still maybe siguro yung single ka pa lang or your hubby ka na as a daddy,
Mhm.
3 consequences of prayer na medyo masaya yung buhay mo, yung parang you think na this is it. This is because of my prayer.
Good question. First, I could remember is my decision to really become a lay married man, because before I decided to get married, all my life, I mean, hindi man all my life, but basta yung mga years ko, college, high school, elementary, I've been wanting to become a priest. And di ba, being a priest is good, di ba? Your son nga, your son is, di ba? It's a good thing to want to be a priest, of course, to be a clergyman. And yet, di ba, sabi nung spiritual director ko noon, the good thing may be keeping you from the great, it's not really for me pala. Yun yung ko. And before I decided, I really prayed to God na talagang yung taos puso na, Lord, I'm blind. I really don't know what to do. I may want to become a priest, but is this part, and Lord, alam mo naman na yun yung gusto. Kasi it's gonna be big vocation to Lord. If I will be a priest, it will affect my life. I'll be parang ganun. So, yun, a result of imperfect, weak, but consistent, trying to be consistent prayer is my vocation. And then also my decision to be in ministry. Kasi before I decided to be a feast builder, of course, the pull of, I'm not saying the world is bad, of course, but we are talking about a vocation here. My vocation really now is to become a minister and to focus on preaching and serving the Lord. Before kasi I was being pulled from both sides na parang I want to become an accountant, like travel ganon, and then to stay here and become a builder. So of course the fruit of prayer is discernment. Na I had peace na okay, and then still no, maganda lang kasi the Lord is opening up the same the same opportunities for me to become a preacher, to become a public speaker, to be online, to bless people, to have events. That's what I wanted to do, and yet I'm doing it now. Even if I'm a preacher, I'm on YouTube. I'm doing this interview, which is an honor for me. So, ganon. And the third one is, of course, having my family, Luca and my two sons. We've really prayed for them. So the second one is still due on October, yung isang
Yes.
second boy namin. But Luca is really a blessing. Every time he sleeps, I just stare at him for a few minutes just to thank the Lord and parang Lord, wow, you really trust Guada and I, my wife, no, enough to send us kids because, di ba? My belief is this guy, my children, are made to become saints, like all of us, right? Like you and
Yes.
I. And then parang yun yung prayer ko kay Lord na, Lord, please make me a better person so that I can contribute to His becoming a saint. Yun yung
Correct.
ultimate prayer ko for myself and for my son. Yun.
Kaya nga, ang ganda talaga na it comes from us as couples na nakikita nila
Yes.
we are at the same time molding children na in the future magiging holy, magiging santo, di ba? So that leads to my next question,
Mm.
Brother Steph. Now, holiness, kasi sa ngayon,
Yeah.
yung pag sinasabing holiness, it has become a label na many are ashamed of, 'di ba? Yung mga
Mm.
bagong tubo siguro yung mga bata pa sa ngayon pag sinasabi mo ay para kang santo parang nahihiya pa sila kung you label them as a saint
Yeah.
or holy, 'di ba? So how can are we trying to live a double life as a Christian or as a Catholic na how can one pray and be ashamed to be called holy? 'Di ba? So,
Mm.
kasi nakikita ko rin yung sinasabi mong holiness and prayer should always go side by side. So, siguro
Mm-mm.
mahirap din na you pray but you do not want to become holy or what is your take about that particular uh, idea siguro?
Good question because holiness is really one of the, at least experience ko, one of the most misunderstood topics about spiritual life. I think the reason why they don't like to be called holy is because of their notion of holiness. Kasi whenever we think about holiness, most people when they think about holiness, they're like di makabasag pinggan, very ganon, very boring, very silent, very ganon. And who likes that, right? And I mean maybe there are people who like that, but even like parang muros na parang naganon lang all the time praying, like ganyan talaga, not doing anything else. Even Saint Teresa of Avila says, God save us from sour-faced saints. Sabi niya na dapat kapag kasi yun nga, the misconception is holiness is all about that, but holiness is not like that. Holiness is when you look at somebody who is truly holy, he's just becoming a full human being with all his quirks, idiosyncrasies, mga nakakatawa sa kanya, mga nakakainis sa kanya. Kasi a holy, a saint is still a person, right? Especially if
Yeah.
that saint is not yet dead. Even the saints, may mga, if you just read the stories of mga canonization processes of the saints before they were canonized, maraming mga stories na they thought that this saint was kinda weird, gano'n, na why is she a saint? Na wala naman siyang ginawa. Ganun ba? So, holiness is not like that. And a lot of people shy away from holinesses because they think this is the biggest misconception. Holiness is something that we do. It's wrong. Holiness is not something that we do. Holiness, here's the thing, holiness is the result of the partnership between you and God. But God is always the one who acts on the person to make the person holy.
So
Nothing we can do.
parang ang nangyayari, it's a God-given grace talaga, because that is because of his love, that he wanted us to be one with him, and since he is holy, that's why 'di ba mayroon ding sinasabi na be holy as your father is holy. So yung he wants us to be one with him. So
Hmm.
tayo, dahil sa fallen nature ng tao, talagang minsan nagkakamali, yung parang ganon. But
Mhm.
then because of your being prayerful, yung siguro
Yeah.
yung because of your being so transparent to him, and lahat yung mga mali mo nakikita niya, but then bumabangon ka ulit at you are asking forgiveness. So siguro yun yung punto na hindi ka pakawalan ng Diyos. Yung
Yeah.
he continues to hold us na as a
Mm.
couple, lalo na as a couple, ang dami nating mga
Oo.
struggle.
Don't get me started. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that because that's married life. That's married life. You are living in a romantic idea of a married life if you will shy away from the struggles, the fights, the feuds, the misunderstandings. It's part of married life. And the sooner you accept that there are things like that, kasi people kasi they go into marriage with this idealistic way, diba? Of course, it's good to think of the ideal, but the fact is, may mga moments talaga na you are in the you're
Because
in the trenches, you
we are
struggle.
mingling two personalities, tapos iba yung upbringing ng isa. Kaya yung parang unifying force talaga yung prayer, 'di ba? Because if you
Yes.
pray together, you try to shy away from from the errors, from
Mm-hmm.
the pride and whatever mga mali natin, because if we continue to connect ourselves to our God, na nare-realize din natin tama pala, mali pala yung ginagawa ko kanina, yung parang mali pala yung sinasabi ko kanina. So you will then realize na uh, I really have to be humble enough to say sorry, yung parang ganon. So
Yeah.
to make a one statement, brother Steph, yung power of prayer on God's terms
Mm-hmm.
in our relationship. Ano yung pwede mong ihabilin sa viewers natin?
Wow, what a big question. But sige, I'll think of something na feeling ko noteworthy for this kind of Um ano lang, basta I'll just go back to that kasi prayer in itself is a struggle na, 'di ba? It's a struggle for most people. Tapos couple pa. Basta please, ako lang as your brother and as brother Steven, as somebody who is also struggling with prayer myself and as a couple. Ano lang, eto lang yung pinaka let's not forget the object of our prayer. The object of our prayer is God. And of course, no, it takes a little bit of parang reparenting from God or changing the image of God kasi may mga image kasi na parang very bad na about God, no? But I pray, sisters and brothers, na God will reveal to you His true nature, which is mercy, eternal mercy talaga. So, kasi sa experience ko, I don't want to be slack in my prayer, ha? I di ako pabanjing-banjing ganun, but experience ko lang na when I fall, whenever I miss prayer times, whenever I sleep during prayer. Let's get it out in the open. Whenever I do that, um, I just know that the Lord is okay with it. All these years, kung meron akong masasabi na na description kay Lord, ano talaga? Mercy. Mercy, yun lang. Merciful love. Merciful love. Na whenever you pray as a couple or separately, don't forget that you are facing God. And God loves you so much. So whatever weakness you have, whatever struggles you have, He knows, He understands, and if you just allow Him, He will, He will bless you. Yun lang. Na just relax. Just relax. You're facing God when you pray. He's God. He's a big guy. He can take whatever you throw at him. So, ganon.
Okay, so we also inform our viewers that you have a book and the title is In the Name of the Father, no? So parang ang ganda ng book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you please invite them? I have the link below. So
Yeah.
siguro you can tell the viewers about your book.
Yeah, my book is In the Name of the Father. It's all about I teach people how to pray here, how to pray from the beginning. But this what's very special about this book for me is this is also I wove into my the prayer, my story about my father in the name of the Father because I struggled with relating with God as Father. I can relate with God with as Jesus, as the Holy Spirit, but for many years I had difficulty seeing God as Father. And then I found out it's because I had resentment against my own biological father, whom I love naman talaga. And I share that in the story. And the ending, be careful because you might tear up. And a lot of people who read this book has given me a feedback na parang they were watching a telenovela. But yeah, no, it's very personal to me. And please, you can buy the physical book or kasi pandemic ngayon, ebook na lang at bit.ly/feast books that inspire. And please go to the faith and spirituality section and or search In the Name of the Father by Stephen Nellas. And also my website is www.stephennellas.com. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
And I hope you support. Thank you in advance.
Support Brother Stephen, and at the same time sana wala na si COVID. We will also pray na wala na si COVID para balik na tayo sa in-phase na feast natin, di po ba? So
Yeah.
Brother Stephen, thank you for guesting in my HMTV, my humble channel, and thank you very much for being here sa uulitin, and hopefully we are giving value to our viewers this time, lalo na yung nagsa-struggle sa prayers, and hopefully they get some insights na meron talagang power yung prayer natin, lalo na pag it is said on God's terms, di po ba? So, once again, thank you very much for being with us and with Brother Steven. And sa ulitin, meron din tayong iba pang live episodes that will help you have a purposeful, inspired, productive, and empowered married life. So, God bless, more power, and this is Nanay Jet of HMTV. God bless.